All right, my vocabulary strategy was the vocab bookmarks, and it's for grades 4 through 6. And basically, it's just a bookmark that has your name and your date, obviously, and then it has, you put your book title, your author, your vocab word, a definition, and then the sentence that it's used in the story or the book. So since it's 4 to 6th grade, it would probably likely be a chapter book. And this activity can be used during read alouds or during independent reading. And it's a strategy for increasing upper elementary students like descriptive and receptive vocab, because they're like collecting interesting way that words are used in stories that they haven't necessarily seen before. So for independent reading, students, like you could have them set up a place in your classroom and students could know they could go get one whenever they wanted to. And I would encourage my students to get a bookmark when they come across a word that they think might be important to the rest of the story that they don't know the definition of. They don't necessarily need a bookmark for every single word that they don't know within the story, because there'll be a lot of bookmarks. So I would encourage them to choose like the most important words they think will be vital to the rest of the story. And then if you're doing it during shared reading or like read alouds, you could point them to specific words that they need to know. Like if you know it's going to be tested on the test, or you could point them to the specific words. So basically how this is the example that it gave in the book. And basically the students just put the book title and the author and then the word that they want to know more about. So this one is worrywart. So that's a word that might be common to some people, but some people might not know what it means. And that's why these bookmarks are so cool, because the words don't all have to be the same. Like I might know what a worrywart is, but my classmate might not. So they can make one on worrywart and I can make one on something else. And then it just lists the definition in their own words. Or I guess you could have them, like give them access to the computers or a dictionary and they could look it up. And then it has the sentence that it's in the story. So it says, listen to us, Sari said a couple of worrywarts. So that kind of gives them some context of what they were doing. So they would just go through this process as they feel they needed to, unless you told it was during guided reading, you would be telling them what to do. I mean, during read alouds, you'd be telling them what to do. So if I were using this in my classroom, I might make a couple of, this is the example from the book, but I would make a couple additions probably. I would include the part of speech on here, because that's kind of an important thing to know when using a word, when learning about a word. And I also might include a place for the students to use it in a sentence of their own, so they can kind of give it more meaning and see if they put it in the correct context. This could even be just done on the back. So that's basically how the activity works. Students would just do it as they wanted to. And then for the assessment, I was thinking it would be cool to, instead of giving your students 10 vocab words about this book to memorize, if you're having a unit test on this book, you could have a blank space for where students could write 2 or 3 of the words that they had made these vocab bookmarks out of. So that kind of gives them, it would be different for everybody. It would be the words they didn't know, but they could write the word and the definition and they could choose which one they wrote. So that would be a good way to make sure they are like owning the knowledge of the word and that they've looked at it and studied it and they know what it means. And that would just give them choice to not, it would also help them not learn words they already know. Like I remember having a bunch of vocab lists and I already knew half of the words on there, and that's kind of a waste of time. So this would alleviate that issue, and it would give students the words they think they don't know, and you would be able to assess them on that. And also, if you were doing the ones during your read alouds, then you were pointing them to specific words, so everybody would have the same words. You could just collect these as assessments and just look at it. You could either be informal, or you could actually take them up and do a formal assessment on if they included all the information. That would just be if they all had the same words. So to relate it to the methods of assessment on page 157, I related it to the first one, asking students to give the definition in their own words, orally or in writing. These obviously require students to give their definition in their own words, and I think it would be more beneficial for the student to look it up and then give it in their own words, because if they just write the definition that's in the dictionary, they're just going to write it and then forget about it. But if they take the words that are in the dictionary and they put it in their own words, they're going to remember it better, and they're going to write it down in a way that makes more sense to them, which would help them better remember it. So I think this is a really good activity to use for upper grades. especially with like chapter books and bigger books, and then obviously they can use them as bookmarks in their books. And I think it's just a good way to, I really liked the idea of letting them choose which words they do on their vocab section on their test. I think this would be a good way to get to there and get out of the, rote memorization of, oh, we have 10 vocab words we need to learn this week, and then you're gonna write the definition or fill in the blank or whatever. So I think this would be a cool thing to use in the upper elementary to help students gain more vocab words that are important to them and like heighten their expressive and receptive vocab.